Hello and welcome to We Turned Out Okay. This is episode 354. I had to look to make sure of the podcast that is here to help you feel seen, heard, and cared for, get good behavior from your children, and truly feel happy inside. And welcome. I'm really glad you're here. Happy New Year. This is the first official episode of 2021. I had not planned to do an episode in 2021 before this one, but last week I ended up recording a quickie. Well, quickie for me, it was about a half-hour bonus episode because I could not imagine not trying to serve you or help you in the wake of the armed insurgency on the U.S. Capitol building on January the 7th, and I thought, I know how I felt about it. In fact, I'm going to read you a little something that I wrote about it towards the end of the show. But I knew that I wanted to record something quickly for you. And so the following morning I did that. And it's episode 353.5 of the show. And you can find it by going to WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/353-5. I know it's complex, but that's how they have you do it. And yeah, so I'm wanting to wish you a happy new year. I better introduce myself. I'm Karen Locke-Culp. I am a child development expert and a parent coach. I'm recording this both in video and in audio, so you can watch it in YouTube or you can listen to it as you're going about your daily routine. I have degrees in early childhood education. That's my master's degree, and in human development and family relations. That is my bachelor's degree. That is the one that has come in a lot more handy in pandemic times. And if you are still here, if you're listening to me in January of 2021 or later, I am super proud of you because it means that you have been, if nothing else, you have kept you and your family alive during this time. And I think that is really an accomplishment. I think it's something to be proud of. We are maybe, depending on where we live in the world, approaching the end of the pandemic. It's still not, ending for a long time, but we're starting to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel with vaccines and that sort of thing. And I am still here for you. I've been really wanting to be here for you and to serve you well before the pandemic, but especially during it. And in fact, we're going to get into today. I'm going to share, I have each year, I pick a word, I choose a word for the year, and I'm going to share about last year's word and how I felt it went, and this upcoming year's word and how I hope it will go. And I'm also going to share some of my goals, the goals I had last year back when I was a little naive, person in early 2020, and what my goals are for this upcoming year. So I really want to dive right into that. And so I think I will. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this is I'd love to share about my goals first. And that means looking for the 2020 goals, looking at those. And I want to just talk a little bit about how I did with them. There is an episode of the show that is for these goals, and it's about 50 shows ago, but I don't honestly have the number. It will be in the show notes, though. I will make sure to write that down. I'm just going to grab myself a pencil and a piece of paper and make sure that I've got my little notepad here so I can write links for 354. And the first one is going to be goals 2020. So whatever that one was called I want to give that to you to listen to so you can go back and hear what I said that I wanted my goals to be if you want to do that. I will warn you, it felt to me listening back like so irrelevant. As I say, I feel like I had no idea what was coming. There was this gigantic tidal wave gathering to change life as we know it. And but if you listen back, I hope you, as I did, realize what I was going for, and they did, part of those goals did get me here. So some of them I had to drop off, but some of them did in fact get me to actually where I am today. So, okay. So the first goal that I had was last year was to be in control of my emotions. I was remembering as I listened back, I had just had an experience where I realized I had a lot of rage inside me. And um, it was, if it was unresolved, then it would bubble out in terms of, but it didn't bubble out in explosive outbursts for me. What happens when I feel rage is I get tremendous headaches. I subvert it, I guess, into other emotions. And I was learning that for me, the antidote to rage was exhilaration. When I can feel exhilarated, it's an emotion that makes me just feel so great, so very, very good. And so I was looking for things that would help me feel exhilarated. And actually, that one really came in handy in 2020. It really, really did. It helped me recognize what I needed to do to feel better. And I share these, by the way, because I hope that I can be a kind of guinea pig for you. I can give you a sort of blueprint to help you ask the questions that might lead, like, so maybe one of your questions would be like, do I feel rage? And then how would I mitigate it? Because not everybody's going to want to mitigate it with exhilaration, but that's what I like. So, and in fact, I've had this picture. So if you are listening, if you are watching in YouTube, you can see I'm going to hold up a picture of myself climbing Mount Washington. This was me at the summit of Mount Washington. You can see my little backpack there. Actually, it was quite a large backpack there. And it identifies this as being at the top of Davis Path, which is basically the summit of Mount Washington. And there is nothing behind me but clear blue sky. Actually, it's a little hazy towards the bottom. But what I love about this picture is the expression on my face. I was like 20, probably 25, maybe 25, 26. And the expression on my face is just one of sheer exhilaration. And I keep it on my cork board just behind my computer, like in my office, so that I can remember that for me, exhilaration is really, really important. And it helps me be in control of my emotions, which is what 2020's one of my goals was for 2020. So another goal was to slow down and be present. I said that I wanted to do that alone, like just within myself, right, with loved ones and in reflection. And I sort of fell down on the job with that, so much so that I ended up getting diverticulitis and being hospitalized in October. But there are lessons to be learned from that. And I will tell you, since October, I have done a much, much better job of slowing down and being present. And this will come up again, I suspect, in today's episode. I do this thing where I want everything to have sort of a hierarchy and an organized way of looking at things. So I couldn't just say slow down and be present, right? I had to say alone, with loved ones, and in reflection. Like, it can't just be one thing. It's got to be splintered into three. So one way that I've been learning to slow down is to recognize when I am making that hierarchy and changing it up and making it simpler. And it's funny because in this same episode in 2020, when I was sharing my goals for the year and my one word for the year, I talked very elaborately about this new format for the show. And we were going to have this kind of interview first in a month, and then we were going to have another kind of interview. And when March came along, all of that got washed away. And I think the show is better and stronger for it. Actually, I can tell from the downloads too, that it's resonating with more people now, because it's not in a rigid format. It's flexible. It can be what it needs to be. And I love that. I mean, that makes me so happy that something that I could do would be resonant for you. And I believe that simplifying makes it just more resonant. So, in fact, we used to do at that time, and through most of the pandemic, I did episodes every week. And I have now taken them back to every other week with a 353 episode archive, or back catalog. That's a lot for people to listen to when they come across the show. And even if you've been listening for a really long time, there are always conversations that I'm going back and listening to, and I bet you do too. In fact, in that bonus episode 353.5, I referenced probably 5 or 6 different interviews that I had, pages I had created on my website that also shared interviews. I get such value from that, and I hope you do too. So So yes, trying to take the sort of hierarchy out of it, the too much organization out of it, um, is a part of slowing down for me. So that didn't really happen until late in 2020 when I got hit over the head with this problem. A book that I've been reading, by the way, and absolutely loving is called 100 Truths You Will Know Too Late, or You Will Discover Too Late, something like that. And the second one in this book it's something like, oh my goodness, let me see if I can remember it. It's something like, oh God, it's gone. You guys, I'm so sorry. Like I lost my train of thought trying to write down the name of the book so that I can remember to feature it. It's a super book anyway, and I'm trying to read it a little bit at a time. I'm going to try and read it over 100 probably weekdays so that these lessons sink in. And the second lesson totally did sink in. Oh, I know what it is. It is the idea that a problem will grow for us until it must be paid attention to. And like the idea is that the problems that we have in our lives, they're going to stay there until we address them. And I think that is, for me, that's been so true. And trying to take some of the like rigid hierarchy out of my routines has been like vital and awesome. I'm a lot freer now than I was then because of it. So, okay, slowing down and being present was one. We've talked about how I fell off that bandwagon until late in the year when a hospitalization made this problem so prominent for me that I had to address it, and I did. The third one was cultivate my relationship with abundance. And this was a really interesting one. In 2020, in early 2020, my husband, Ben, was laid off from his corporate job that he'd been in for 23 years. I do have permission to talk about this on the show, which is good because I think sharing about that has been really helpful for anybody else who's going through that. So he has been he has spent the pandemic doing things that he would never have dreamed that he would do because he was no longer working in a corporate job. And one of the things that he did was he started up a company, a power washing company, a house washing company. And in like 3 months, he had found out that you could start this company, built it, got all the equipment, started washing houses, and made back his startup costs in 3 months before the season ended for us here in New England. So I'm so incredibly proud of him. It did create some challenges for thinking on abundance. And again, if you think of it this way, that the 100 Truths You Will Learn Too Late book talks about, thinking about for example, abundance or lack in terms of money is a challenge that I don't think we even knew that we had. I can't speak for Ben, but I don't know. I didn't really understand the depths of my issues with money until we were forced into a sort of reckoning of like what things cost and how much we have saved and how we pay for the things that are most important to us. What is most important to us became a really interesting question. And how do we afford those things? How do we, for example, keep our house? And it really, so I would say that this is one that I really, cultivating my relationship with abundance is an interesting thing that I was able to do. And you know what I'm just realizing? So I spelled that wrong. Abundance is not what I should be talking about. It's cultivating my relationship with you, my audience. And so I guess I was forced into cultivating my relationship with abundance. But also, I really wanted to cultivate my relationship with you, my audience. And what was really awesome about that is, since that is the actual goal that I should have been talking about, is that I really feel like that grew only stronger in 2020. I talked to so many of you who were struggling with so much, and I love that you came to me and felt that you could approach me. I was in 3 or even 4 online summits. I was an expert speaker at like, I think it was 3. No, it was 4. It was 4 online conferences. And I got to start a relationship with so many of you who'd never heard of me through those. And what's awesome is a couple of those I'm going to be returning to speak in future conferences that like, for example, Holly Peretz is having one, and Sarah Schelt is having one. They're doing future things. I've got there's a couple of others that I've been invited, and I'm considering now. So one of my, in my slow down and be present goal, I have realized that, like, as awesome as it is to speak in conferences, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of thinking, and I love it, but I need to be 100% invested, which means that I'm going to have to say no to some of them. And so, stay tuned, because I'm hoping to be able to announce that I'm doing some of these expert summits online, but I don't have any more information about them yet, and I will let you know as they happen. So that's one way that I was able to cultivate my relationship with my audience. I would say another way, to be honest, is cultivating my relationship with abundance, which I know isn't what I started out thinking about today, but and it isn't what I talked about in 2020, in January 2020. But I needed to realize that even in the midst of when so much is going sideways in our own lives, and with the people around us, there is a lot to be grateful for, and abundance and gratitude are really, really closely linked. So, and then sharing all that with you, I really wanted to keep you in the loop on this journey that I had. For example, when I was lying in the hospital in October, I realized that one of the things that needed to go was my ninja parenting community. I was no longer going to be able to administer that and have a group like that. I've talked a lot about why, and so I don't really necessarily want to get into that today. But I am so glad I did that. Like, it was a necessary part of, I guess I will talk a little bit about why. I mean, really, I was spending more time than I could do to be healthy, working with the people in the ninja parenting community. And I needed to put my coaching efforts into other avenues. And so I did that. I've closed the ninja parenting community. As this goes out, if you're a ninja parent, a current one, the community will close tomorrow, Wednesday. It will be your last day. You can get in there till midnight tomorrow. So if you want to look at any of the Q&A videos, or our live members only calls, any of the posts that you created or that others created, any of the courses that are listed in there, go in and download. My 3 parenting books are in there for you to download as a PDF. You can do that, but you can only do it until midnight tomorrow. So I sent out an email to you all today just to say thank you for your time in the community. It was such a pleasure and so much fun. And I have said all along, I did not know that it was vital to close the ninja parenting community in order for me to be healthy. And it was really, really hard to make that decision. And the support that I got from members, I mean, you were just incredible. I thought I was going to be getting angry, frustrated, how can you do this to us kind of emails and letters and conversations. And what instead I found was people saying, thank you for being such a good example of how to take care of yourself. And I 100% respect your decision. And just thank you for being such a good model. We need you well was the response that over and over again I got. And I'm just so grateful for you all for that. So simplifying, cultivating my relationship with my audience, that meant that I can cultivate other avenues of speaking with you, right? Like I'm going to, a little later in this podcast episode, I'm going to read from my the free newsletters that anyone can sign up for by going to WeTurnedOutOkay.com/weekly. And if you sign up for a free guide of mine, for example, I have a really good one on temper tantrums. I have a really good one on creating readers, like taking a child who hates reading and helping them learn to love reading. Creating happy readers is what it's called. those are, free guides that when you get them, you also get, you join my email news group. So you get these weekly newsletters, and I'm going to read from one to you a little later. And then, so my fourth goal for 2020 was to, quote, be a better publisher. And when I was listening to this, I just had my forehead, in my palm. I was like, are you kidding me? I'd actually forgotten that this was a goal. I have a book that is written. It's not been edited yet. And it's like a really rough draft. It's in rough draft form. But I have another book that I published kind of in beta at my website. It's called Educating Happy Kids. It is available. If you go to WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/books, you can find it. But it is, there's typos. It's not formatted properly for like Amazon or, it's not ready for prime time yet, I guess is what I would say. But if you want it, you can absolutely go get it at WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/books. And we actually did a great study of that particular book in the autumn in the Ninja Parenting community. So, but I have not been a good publisher. I wanted to get books into audio. My husband built an entire audio studio for us, because books. Right now, I'm sitting in our office. I've got my vision board behind us. I've got pictures that I love on the walls. There's a mural that my mom made for my son when this was his bedroom a long, long time ago. And it's awesome in here, but it's too noisy. If you're going to make an audiobook, you have to have complete and total silence. You have to have sound absorbing materials. And Ben built this great little booth for me in our home. And in the pandemic, we realized that just wasn't going to happen this year. So I was not a better publisher. In fact, I was not a publisher at all of any books. But I did keep publishing podcast episodes, and I did make some videos, and I was a publisher in other ways, other important ways. So there was that. And my one word for 2020 was the word enough. I use this to say I am enough, right? Within me, I am enough. I have everything I need right here is what I meant by that. I have enough, meaning materially. I felt like we have so much. This is, I think, where we could get into abundance a little bit. And I was making efforts on that, but I think being through the ringer of 2020 has really taught me that I used to have a tremendous lack mindset, and now I don't anymore. I'm most of the time, I guess some of the time I still do. It's really hard to sort of stay in that zone that you want to be in all the time. But most of the time I have a good abundance mindset towards material things and money. And then the third way that I used the word enough was to say, I have had enough. I've had enough of unkindness. I've had enough of people feeling mistreated. I've had enough of racism. I have had enough of parents either tremendously neglecting or abusing their children. I have just had enough. And I guess in that way, the word enough was a great word for 2020. What I think, looking back on it, what bothers me about it is I almost feel like it didn't have a positive enough vision, I think is how I would put it. Like the word enough and what 2020 became were perfect for each other, but 2020 was kind of awful. And so it was a very good word for the year, but it is not the way that I had wished I would frame the year, I think is how I would put it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing into 2021. And the first thing I'm going to do is share with you my one word for this year. And I'm just going to hold up that picture again, because this year's one word is exhilarated. I actually really debated between these two last year when I was trying to decide, will it be enough? Will it be exhilarated? And I went with enough. And I'm very glad that I saved 2021's word for exhilarated. I'm glad that I saved this word for 2021, because I think when I look at this picture, I mean, the look of accomplishment, of confidence, of joy, of just being so thrilled, like I am on top of the world. That's what exhilarated means to me. And we need more of that in 2021. We need, so other things need to be going right in order to be exhilarated. But a lot of exhilaration comes from stepping out of my comfort zone. So for example, I am a parent coach, and I really up-leveled my parent coaching game this year. At the end of 2000, like a sort of second half of 2020 and into the future. And what that means is I am inviting people to parent coaching calls, to private coaching calls. I call them powerful coaching calls that inspire me. And I mean, I have been able to have coaching conversations with so many people who inspire me, including entrepreneurs, authors, best-selling parenting authors, former deans of Ivy League schools. I mean, people who head up gigantic divisions at companies. And what I've discovered is that I didn't know this when I started. So what I discovered, I used to think that I was going to be the coach for the stay-at-home parent. And I think maybe a couple people that I've worked with closely have been stay-at-home parents. Not that it's a bad thing to be a stay-at-home parent. I think the difference is this has become a podcast for people who work outside the home just a lot of the time. Like it's funny, just to even kind of bring that up and separate it that way. I really feel right now like I don't want you to think that I'm disparaging of you if you're a stay-at-home parent. I was a stay-at-home parent. And I think, it's just worked out that way, I guess, that I'm working with people who are juggling jobs or have some of them have left their jobs because their children need them for online virtual schooling. And so there's the whole idea of like, I used to be a person who like needed to look nice and would go out into the world and see other people and had things to think about. So my mom used to call when we were in the thick of parenting, and it's not your brain that your children need, it is your physical body because you're nursing, or they need you to attend to them in the middle of the night, or they need you to just play Play-Doh with them and just be with them and endure through their tantrums and figure it all out, right? Like my mom used to call that the age of she felt like a stuffed zucchini all the time with three of us little kids running around. And for whatever reason, maybe this bears thinking about, I don't really know, but for whatever reason, my message has resonated more with people who are raising children and working outside the home. And of course, no one's working outside the home right now, right? Like we are all, whether we have a job or whether we are a stay-at-home parent, all of our responsibilities have gotten bigger and crazier in COVID. And so I think the idea of being exhilarated and getting out of our comfort zone is, for me, that's why I want this to be my word of the year. It felt really scary to approach, for example, the former dean of an Ivy League school and say, hey, I've got something I think you'd be interested in. And, do you want to, they didn't know me from Adam, like, and that's what I mean about being exhilarated. And so here's what I will say, because I'm still beating myself up a little bit for like making some kind of a weird distinction between stay-at-home and working parents. I would say that at the core of this word, of the word exhilarated, sorry, it just involves getting out of your comfort zone. Like everything good happens outside of your comfort zone is an expression I've heard before, and I absolutely love it. I think it's so true. And so what does that mean for you? Does it mean that you take some time to cultivate a hobby? Like, for example, one of the things that I did over our winter vacation was I finished up a pastel painting that I have been working on literally for years. And I finally finished it. I declared it done. I put it up on my bulletin board here. And every time I look at it, I get a little thrill. I mean, it's not a masterpiece, right? But it's really cool. And I made it. And so I'm currently working on a bunch of, I started knitting socks because I have the hand strength and the bandwidth to knit socks. Like it can feel really out of our comfort zones to try something new. I've heard somebody say that like when you first start with knitting needles, you can't make anything go right. You're losing stitches all over the place. Your hands are fumbling around. You can't keep the tension on the yarn. It's so frustrating. But if you can get past that, it's amazing. That is a feeling of exhilaration when you can look at at your own knitting. So I've been trying on, I'm creating a pair of socks from the toe up, both at the same time on what's called a magic loop. I'm using a very, very long knitting needle to knit them both at the same time. And that's important in socks because it means that you can make, like when you start turning the heel, for example, you can do it at the same time on both socks. You can make them look identical. And anyway, that's one way that I'm getting exhilaration. I am, of course, skiing because fortunately for us, we are able to, we have a very, very affordable ski program that is takes place at a mountain about an hour away from us. And we were able to do that again this year. And in fact, I'm doing it with both kids because both of them were overjoyed to come with me. So so we're doing that. That's a way that I get exhilaration. And I'm going to try and live 2021 in as much the feeling of being exhilarated as I possibly can. And so that's my one word. And yeah, thank you for letting me share it. Okay. And then I have got 3 goals for 2021. And I'm sure that they will sound very familiar to you as I start to go through them. So the first one is slow down and focus on health. And then the other part of that I have is listen and learn. And when I think of listen and learn, I really think of my own body, as well as listening to you, the people that I serve, the person that I serve, and trying to help you talk through your issues and concerns, give you an idea that you can put into action. These are all great benefits of slowing down. And in fact, I have a goal. I've never shared this about this on the podcast before, but I will today, because we're talking about goals, right? So I have a goal I have had for years of earning a comfortable living for my family. And I've never come anywhere near that. Again, because I've had a lack mindset. I have thought of money in a way that was holding me back from this. But I'm not doing that anymore. Instead, I am cultivating abundance. And I know that I've learned that goals matter not as something to work towards, but as a place to come from. So every time I ask myself, who do I need to be today to earn a comfortable living for my family? The immediate answer that comes back is slow down, slow the F down. Like, do things that fill your soul. Don't do things that that deplete your energy. At least don't do them often. And really think hard about, like, what am I saying yes to? What am I saying no to? How am I spending my time? Slowing down. It has been, I've got 4 goals on my bulletin board. Slow down and eat well are at the very tippy top. Beneath that, I have help our family through the seismic shifts. And beneath that, I have earn our family's living with my creative work. And the reason that slow down and eat well are at the tippy top is because I got to do those first in order to help my family through the seismic shifts and to earn our living with my creative work. And I'm thinking of that as a place to come from. So hopefully that's an idea that sparks for you, that you don't, if you're creating New Year's resolutions and you are frustrated because even early into January, those goals are waffling for you, try and make them a place to come from instead of a place to get to, and see how that feels. For me, it has been a game changer, an absolute game changer. I'm closer to earning my family's living comfortably than I've ever been before. And it's like amazing. And all I did about that was to slow down and to think about where I'm coming from, not where I'm going to. So the second one that I have, my second goal for 2021 is literally help my family through the seismic shifts. This has been a nutty year. We had thought that we were going to be moving. So before the pandemic hit, we were making plans to relocate to another area of Massachusetts. And that's been put on hold. It became much more important for us to shelter in place, I guess, is really how I would say it. And instead of trying to build some future really focus on the here and now, and that is how we've been helping our family through the seismic shifts, Ben and I. So that's been really good, and that is my continued goal. And then the last one that I have is to serve fewer people in person, but better. So I just spoke about closing the Ninja Parenting community. I was noticing in the Ninja Parenting community that there were about 20% of the people who were utilizing the resources. And yet I felt like I was chasing people to, like, hey, remember me over here, remember this. And it was like such a bad mindset for me and for them. And what I've chosen to do is to work with only the people who are really truly committed and invested. And what's been amazing is cultivating relationships with those people. It's been super fun, super inspiring. And it means that I get to have a connection with someone as they are growing and developing, and as they're gaining insights that really they put to use in their homes and families. And it's just been awesome. So that's my third goal. And that's it. Like, I've got 3 goals: slow down, help my family through the seismic shifts, and serve fewer people, but serve them better, at least in person. There's always going to be this free podcast. There is always going to be a free newsletter and free guides for you to sign up for. And in fact, what I've been finding is that the podcast, the newsletter, they are ways for us to start a relationship, a conversation that can then turn into, it's a way for you to get to know me a little bit better. It's a way for me to get to know you a little bit better once you start writing me back, because I love the weekly newsletters are a chance for correspondence. I love that, like, so much. And that is how I have been able to work with fewer people and do it better. So those are my goals. And again, my one word for 2021 is exhilarated. I look forward to this time next year when we will get to see how I did, how you did, how we all did, kind of in this interesting year. All right. So the last thing that I want to do today is I would like to read to you from my newsletter. I write these every week, and most of the time I would say they get published on weturnedoutokay.com/blog, which is actually, if you look at it, it's also, you can access that by going to my webpage and clicking on the heading, the page that's called Podcast and Blog. So I called this one, Hello 2021, Please Be Kind to Us. And here we go. On Tuesday of last week, in other words, the day before the attempted coup on our federal legislature and national election process, I drove around my town to do a few errands. It was a new year. I had a bunch of books on knitting socks that had just arrived for me at the library. I had the bandwidth and the hand strength to knit something as ambitious as a pair of socks. I had lots of hope for the future. Driving to our library, I passed the senior center in my town and saw the following words on their sign: Hello 2021, please be kind to us. I smiled and drove on with hope in my heart. The town I live in has done an absolutely wonderful job in helping its citizens through the pandemic. Early on, the town started doing emergency meetings on our local cable access and in YouTube. More recently, they've taken these up on Facebook, sharing about everything from COVID case numbers to changes with schools to what's happening with town meeting and other local events. They've brought on guests, managers of local supermarkets, the public health nurse for our town. They even brought me on to help parents manage things like helping kids with mask wearing and how to keep going in all of this. And the link to that is in the notes that I am reading from currently. They even shared a special email address for us residents so that we could write and ask our questions and get them answered in real time. These meetings took place 5 days a week through April, May, and June of 2020. They helped me feel informed and safe and truly part of a community of caring people. These community feelings were all the more important given that we live in a part of New England that has been called the Deep South of the North and the Confederacy of the North. Some days in the pandemic have been so filled with fear and worry because of the angry and intolerant energy surrounding my family and my little home. Folks coming up to my children and telling them, you don't have to wear those masks, signs expressing unkind, racist thoughts, and more. It's been really hard to stay positive some days. I've been so grateful to the leaders in our town for combating that energy with the meetings, with the library curbside pickup, and with the small messages like last Tuesday's aforementioned adorable sign at the senior center, welcoming us into the new year and asking that 2021 please be kind to us. Then Wednesday happened. The fear and worry felt like it was exploding out of my area and covering the whole country. So this was Wednesday. I'm not reading at this moment, but this was Wednesday, January the 6th, the day that Joe Biden was supposed to be confirmed, like it was supposed to be, I forget the word, confirmed is the word that's in my mind, as the person who won the election, as the leader of our country who would be sworn in on January 20th. And instead of having that happen, well, it did happen eventually, but what happened before that is a bunch of armed insurrectionists stormed the Capitol building and tried to disrupt that process. And thank goodness it didn't happen. But as I write, the fear and worry felt like it was exploding out of my area and covering the whole country. In those moments when I was worried about my family, I was also worried for you. I wondered, how are you feeling? How could I serve you and help you feel better? The answer I came up with, if 2021 is going to, quote, be kind to us, we have to be kind to each other. On Thursday morning, I recorded a bonus podcast episode, which I called What Your Child Needs from You Today. And again, that is at WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/335-5, just because of the way that you have to write that down. Anyway, in it, I share the one thing your kids need most from you right now. Spoiler alert, it's remaining calm, as well as tons of resources to help you accomplish that. I hope it helps. Let's make 2021 kind to us by being kind to each other. After all, the connections that we share are what will see us through. Cheers, Karen. So that is my newsletter for this week. Again, if you want them to go right into your inbox, you can sign up for them by going to WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/weekly, or you can sign up for any of my free guides. They are all available at WeTurnedOutOKAY.com. And I hope you do, especially if you think it will be useful for you going forward. I share tools and ideas every week. They help me too. And then what's best of all is when people correspond with me, when you write to me and you tell me what's on your mind, and when we get some help for you. So yeah, that I think is all I was ready to say today. I talked before about how I have this idea of I keep want to make routines and hierarchies that are so it's going to be so great because first I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that and then I'm going to do this. And instead, what I'm trying to do is not cram a bunch of stuff into here. So I have some great insights I can't wait to share from members of the Ninja parenting community in our last live members only call before the community closed. And at first I was like, I'll do it today. And then I thought, you know what? No. What I need to do is slow down and spread this out over a few shows so that you don't feel like you're taking too much in. And so that I don't feel like I am exhausting myself giving too much. Instead, what I want to do is just sit in this moment with you. I truly, truly, truly believe that if 2021 is going to be kind to us, it's because we are going to be kind to each other, even people we disagree with. We've had a lot of conversations about that in my house this week because of everything that has been going on politically. And I come back to at least trying to find some compassion and trying to put myself in others' shoes and understand why they would do what they would do. I am not condoning what they did or what they would do, but I think it's important to understand why they did it, because people don't storm the Capitol building just for a lark. They do it because they are enraged and frightened. And how can I, while being firm, we're hearing about a lot of arrests and I think that's good and important, but we also need to have some compassion, because if we don't, we are not being kind to each other, and that's what's going to get us through this. So So the minute we can put ourselves in somebody else's shoes and attempt to understand, and uh, that's I feel like where the magic happens. So and it's funny because that's a lot of what I talk about here in terms of parenting as well. It's not just the it's not just others, strangers or people that we disagree with or whatever, even if it's friends or loved ones. It's our own children that they need us to understand where they're coming from too. And it helps us be compassionate when we do. And that makes everything better. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. I really hope this has been a helpful show for you. I'm really looking forward to bringing you shows every other week in 2021. And the last thing that I always do in these is I have a huge thank you to our producer, the man who first started me on the path of, well, us on the path of taking walks together, spending date, quote unquote, time together each week. And I'm thinking about that right now because it's been such, like, what we do, we function as such a great team, because our first thought is like to look to the other for ideas and suggestions. And that really started with, let's go spend some happy, pleasant time together out in nature. And God, we've been doing that for years. It was probably about 3 years ago now that Ben proposed that. 2 or 3 years ago, can't remember. It was in January though, and it was the beginning of a new year. And I'm so grateful to him for that, and lots of other things. He's the voice you hear at the top of this show. He is the 23-time winner of the Husband of the Year award. He is Benjamin Culp, and I'm so thankful to him. And thank you so much too. I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad we were walking this path together, and I will see you next time. Bye.